Commander Velk of the Galactic Enforcement Division pressed his four eyes against the observation deck's viewport, watching the primitive planet below. Earth, they called it. A backwater world that had somehow managed to avoid complete annihilation for the past few thousand cycles. How utterly disappointing. "Sir, we're receiving another distress signal from Sector 7, announced Lieutenant Creeks, her tentacles dancing nervously across the control panel. "Third one this week." Velk's mandibles clicked in irritation. "Let me guess. Another merchant vessel got too curious about the humans and ended up as space debris." "Actually, sir, this one's different. The ship is intact, but the crew is, well, they're asking for psychological counseling." Now that was interesting. Velk turned his bulk away from the viewport, his exoskeleton gleaming under the ship's artificial lighting. In his 40 years of service, he'd seen species beg for mercy, plead for their lives, even offer their offspring as tribute. But psychological counseling, that was a new one. "Bring them aboard," he commanded. "I want to hear this personally." 20 minutes later, Captain Zorth of the cargo vessel Prophet's Dream stood in Velk's office, his usually pristine uniform torn and stained. The crystalloid's translucent skin had turned a sickly yellow color, and his hands wouldn't stop shaking. "Captain Zorth," Velk began, settling into his command chair with a heavy thud. "Your report stated that you encountered what exactly?" Zorth's voice cracked like thin ice. "A human, sir. Just one human. A small one at that." Velk's laugh rumbled through the room like distant thunder. "One human? Captain, your ship carries enough firepower to level a small moon. Your crew number's 57 trained mercenaries. And you're telling me one human caused this condition?" "She had a beast, sir." Zorth's eyes darted around the room as if expecting something to leap from the shadows. "At first we thought it was her pet, something small and harmless. We've all heard the stories about humans keeping animals for companionship. Seemed quaint. Go on." "We landed near what appeared to be a human settlement. Standard procedure, sir. We announced our presence, demanded tribute in exchange for not glassing their village from orbit." Zorth paused to wipe sweat from his brow. The human seemed amused. Velk's secondary arms crossed over his chest. This was already sounding ridiculous. "Amused?" "They started laughing, sir. Not the terrified laughter of a doomed species, but genuine amusement. Like we'd told them the funniest joke in the galaxy. Then this girl stepped forward. Describe her. Young, maybe 16 cycles old by human standards. Brown hair, green eyes, wearing what looked like primitive combat fatigues. And she had this thing following her around." Velk leaned forward, his interest piqued despite himself. "What kind of thing?" Zorth's hands trembled as he reached for his datapad. "Here's the recording, sir, but I warn you, it's disturbing." The holographic display flickered to life, showing a peaceful human settlement surrounded by green fields. Velk could see Zorth's mercenaries in their powered armor, weapons drawn, looking like they were about to conquer the known universe. Then the humans appeared. They looked normal. Disappointingly so. Soft, pink creatures with no natural weapons, no armor plating, no venomous appendages. How these pathetic beings had survived this long was beyond Velk's comprehension. Then she stepped into view. The girl looked even smaller than Zorth had described, barely reaching the chest plates of the armored mercenaries. But there was something in her stance, something in the way she moved that made Velk's combat instincts twitch. She walked like a predator, a very confident predator, and behind her, "By the void," Velk whispered. The creature following the girl looked harmless enough at first glance. 4 legs covered in golden fur, a tail that wagged back and forth in a seemingly friendly manner. Its tongue lolled out of its mouth as it panted in the afternoon heat. If Velk didn't know better, he'd say it looked almost adorable. "Watch carefully, sir," Zorth said, his voice barely above a whisper. On the recording, one of the mercenaries, a Bruthan warrior twice the size of any human, stepped forward and began the standard intimidation speech. Something about superior firepower and the futility of resistance. The girl listened politely, even nodding at appropriate intervals. Then she whispered something to her companion. What happened next defied everything Velk thought he knew about physics, biology, and the natural order of the universe. The creature's transformation was instantaneous. One moment it was a harmless-looking animal, the next it was a blur of golden death. It moved faster than Velk's enhanced eyes could track, covering the distance between itself and the first mercenary in less than a heartbeat. The Bruthan warrior, encased in military-grade armor that could withstand plasma fire, went down like he'd been hit by a meteor. The creature's jaws clamped around his helmet with enough force to crumple the reinforced metal like paper. Then it began to shake. "Dear gods of the void," Velk breathed. The shaking motion was unlike anything he'd ever seen. The creature's entire body became a weapon, using its neck muscles to whip the armored warrior back and forth with such violence that the ground cracked beneath them. The sound of metal tearing and electronics sparking filled the air. Other mercenaries opened fire, their weapons blazing with enough energy to vaporize a building. The creature simply dodged. Not the calculated technological dodging of a ship's defense systems, but organic, instinctive movement that seemed to predict where the shots would be before they were fired. Then something even more terrifying happened. The creature began to play. It released the unconscious Bruthan and bounded toward the next group of mercenaries with what could only be described as joy. Its tail was still wagging. It was enjoying this. "Turn it off," Velk commanded, but found he couldn't look away. The creature moved through the mercenaries like a force of nature. It didn't kill them, which somehow made it worse. Instead, it seemed to be having fun, treating the entire battle like some kind of game. It would grab a warrior's weapon, shake it until the mercenary let go, then bound away with what Velk could only describe as a canine grin. When the remaining mercenaries tried to retreat to their ship, the creature herded them, running in wide circles to keep them grouped together while the human girl watched with obvious amusement. "Stop playback," Velk ordered, his voice hoarse. The hologram disappeared, leaving the room in uncomfortable silence. "Sir," Zorth continued, "that wasn't even the worst part." Velk's tertiary stomachs churned. "There's more. After the creature had neutralized our ground forces, the girl approached our ship. She climbed up the landing ramp like she owned the place. My crew. Sir, they're hardened veterans. They've fought in 3 sector wars and survived the Plague Nebula campaigns. But when that girl walked onto our bridge with that thing following behind her, what happened? She asked if we wanted to play fetch. The silence that followed was deafening. Fetch. Velk repeated. Apparently, sir, it's a human game where you throw an object and the creature retrieves it. She suggested we could throw our weapons and her companion would bring them back. Zorth's laugh had a hysterical edge to it. Then she noticed our communications array. Velk felt a cold dread settling in his primary heart. She asked if we'd been talking to anyone about Earth lately. When we confirmed that we'd sent standard reports to Central Command, she got this look on her face. Like she was disappointed in us. Disappointed? She said we'd been bad boys and that bad boys needed to be trained properly. Zorth's hands were shaking so badly he could barely hold his datapad. Then she gave a command to her beast. What kind of command? Sit. Velk blinked all 4 eyes in confusion. Sit. The creature sat down, sir, right there on our bridge. And then she started talking about training. About how humans had been training creatures like this one for thousands of years. How they'd developed methods to turn wild animals into perfect soldiers, perfect companions, perfect weapons. The implications hit Velk like a plasma torpedo to the face. If humans could domesticate and train creatures like that, what else were they capable of? What other horrors were hiding on that deceptively peaceful planet? She told us that Earth had been watching our ships for months, Zorth continued, studying our technology, our tactics, our weaknesses. And, sir, she knew things. Things about our fleet composition, our patrol routes, even our psychological profiles. That's impossible. Earth doesn't have that kind of intelligence capability. With respect, sir, that's what we thought too. But she knew Lieutenant Creaks's molting schedule. She knew about your collection of pre-war artifacts. She even knew about my daughter's graduation from the academy last month. Velk felt his exoskeleton begin to itch, a sure sign of extreme stress. What did she want? She made us an offer, sir. She said Earth would be willing to overlook our past indiscretions in exchange for a simple agreement. Which was, leave them alone. Velk's mandibles clicked rapidly, a habit he'd developed when thinking. And if we refuse? Zorth's face turned an even sicker shade of yellow. She said they'd start training programs, advanced training programs, for creatures much larger than the one she had with her. Larger? D. She showed us pictures, sir. Creatures they call bears, tigers, something called a hippopotamus that apparently kills more humans per year than any other animal on their planet, and humans consider it a minor inconvenience. The room spun slightly as Velk processed this information. She showed you pictures of Earth's predators. No, sir. Zorth's voice dropped to a whisper. She showed us pictures of Earth's herbivores. The plant-eaters, sir, the ones humans have already domesticated. Velk's primary brain struggled to compute this. The plant-eaters are dangerous. One of them was called a horse, sir. Apparently, humans climb on their backs and ride them into battle. For fun. Another was called a bull. Humans stand in front of them with red cloth and dare them to charge. Again, for fun. And the predators. She said those were for advanced classes. The observation deck's viewport showed Earth rotating peacefully below them, its blue and green surface looking deceptively tranquil. Velk wondered how many eyes were watching them right now. How many creatures were being trained at this very moment? Sir, Lieutenant Creaks's voice crackled through the comm system. We're receiving a transmission from the planet's surface. Put it through. The communication screen flickered to life, showing the same human girl from Zorth's recording. She was sitting in what appeared to be a garden, her beast companion lying beside her with its head in her lap. Behind them, Velk could see other humans going about their daily lives, completely unconcerned about the massive warship hanging in their sky. Hello there, the girl said, her voice cheerful and completely unafraid. I'm Maya Thompson, and this is Rex. She scratched behind the creature's ears, and it made a sound that was somehow both terrifying and endearing. We heard you were having some trouble with your crew's mental health. Velk found his voice after several attempts. What do you want, human? Maya's smile never wavered. Oh, we don't want anything from you. We're just concerned neighbors, that's all. Rex here was wondering if your friends would like to come down and play some more. The creature, Rex, lifted its head and stared directly into the camera. Its tail began to wag. That won't be necessary, Velk said quickly. Are you sure? Rex gets lonely sometimes. And we've been working on some new games. There's this one called Chase the Stick, but instead of a stick we use, well, let's just say it's more exciting. We'll be leaving your system immediately. Oh, but you just got here. And we've prepared such a nice welcome party. The local wildlife is very excited to meet you. As if on cue, the camera panned to show the edge of the settlement. Velk's blood turned to ice in his veins. There were more of them. Dozens of creatures, all different sizes and breeds, but all with that same look of barely contained enthusiasm that Rex displayed. Some were larger, some smaller, but all of them shared one characteristic that made Velk's carapace crawl. They were all trained. Fascinating creatures, aren't they? Maya continued, her voice carrying that same cheerful tone that was beginning to make Velk's shell itch. That big one there is Brutus. He's a mastiff, weighs about 200 pounds, and can bite through steel cables. The spotted one is Pepper. She's a Dalmatian. Originally bred to run alongside fire trucks, but we've found she's excellent at tracking fleeing vehicles across multiple star systems. Velk's tactical officer, a nervous Quillan named Rexix, whispered urgently into his comm unit. "Sir, our sensors are picking up movement throughout the settlement. Hundreds of heat signatures, all converging on our position. And that absolutely gorgeous specimen over there." Maya gestured to what looked like a walking carpet with teeth, is Fluffy, Tibetan Mastiff. His ancestors guarded monasteries in the mountains. These days he specializes in boarding actions. Turns out artificial gravity doesn't affect his jumping ability at all. Commander Velk felt his tertiary heart skip several beats. Boarding actions? Oh yes, humans have been perfecting space combat techniques for decades now. Did you know that most alien ships have ventilation systems large enough for a determined German Shepherd to crawl through? Rex here figured that out during our last encounter with some Vorthan pirates. Rex's tail wagged faster, as if remembering a particularly enjoyable experience. "You're bluffing," Velk said, though his voice lacked conviction. "Your species barely has interplanetary travel." Maya laughed, a sound that somehow managed to be both musical and terrifying. "Oh, Commander Velk, you really haven't been paying attention, have you? Tell me, how many of your patrol ships have gone missing in the past year?" The question hit like a photon torpedo. Velk's mandibles began clicking frantically as he accessed his memory banks. 12 ships. 12 ships had vanished without a trace, their last known positions all within 50 light-years of Earth. "Impossible," he breathed. "Rex, show the nice alien commander your favorite trick." The creature stood up, stretched in a way that highlighted every muscle in its deceptively compact frame, then walked over to what appeared to be a child's toy. A small, round ball. Rex picked up the ball, took 3 steps back, then launched himself forward. The ball exploded. Not with fire or energy, but with the sound of a sonic boom. The creature had thrown the ball with enough force to break the sound barrier. The projectile streaked across the settlement, over the hills, and impacted a distant mountain with enough force to trigger a small avalanche. "Good boy, Rex." Maya scratched behind his ears again. "We've been working on his throwing accuracy. Last week he managed to hit a target from 15 miles away. Next week we're trying for orbital shots." Captain Zorth made a strangled noise and collapsed into the nearest chair. Of course, Maya continued conversationally, "That's nothing compared to what some of our other friends can do. Would you like to meet the cats?" "No," Velk said quickly. "No, that won't be necessary." "Oh, but they're so much fun. There's this one technique we learned from studying feline behavior. Cats, you see, are ambush predators. They can remain perfectly still for hours, then strike faster than most alien reflexes can track. We've been teaching them to operate in zero gravity." The implications sent chills down Velk's exoskeleton. Invisible predators that could function in space, trained by humans who apparently treated interstellar warfare like a hobby. "What do you want?" he asked again, though he suspected he already knew the answer. "Want? Oh, Commander, we don't want anything from you. We're quite happy here on Earth, training our friends and perfecting our techniques. But since you asked so nicely, I suppose we could offer some friendly advice. Which is, leave, and when you get back to your fancy headquarters, tell your superiors that Earth is off limits. Not because we're asking politely, but because we're not interested in expanding our training programs to include alien anatomy." Lieutenant Creaks's tentacles were typing furiously at her console. "Sir, I'm detecting massive power buildups across the planet's surface. Energy signatures I've never seen before." Maya glanced at something off camera, then back at the screen. "Oh, that's just dinner time. Rex here has been such a good boy today, he's earned a special treat." The creature's ears perked up at the word treat, and its tail began wagging with such enthusiasm that it created a small dust cloud. "What kind of treat?" Velk asked, though he dreaded the answer. "Well, we've been saving the wreckage from those 12 ships I mentioned earlier. Rex loves playing with starship components. The bigger the explosion, the happier he gets." On cue, distant explosions began lighting up the horizon. Each blast was perfectly timed, creating a rhythm that sounded almost musical. Velk realized with growing horror that the humans were using destroyed alien technology as entertainment for their trained beasts. "You see, Commander," Maya said, her voice taking on a more serious tone, "humans have a saying, every dog has its day. Well, on Earth every day is dog day, and cat day, and horse day, and every other creature we've decided to make friends with." "This is madness," Velk whispered. "No, this is Tuesday. Wednesday is when we practice formation flying with the eagles. Thursday is swimming lessons with the dolphins. Oh, and Friday," Maya's smile turned predatory. "Friday is when we let the wolves out to play." The communication screen split, showing multiple feeds from around the planet. Each one displayed groups of humans working with different animals, all engaged in what appeared to be military training exercises. But the exercises were unlike anything in Velk's tactical databases. Humans rode on the backs of massive creatures through obstacle courses that would challenge powered armor. Other humans worked with smaller, faster animals in coordination drills that put elite military units to shame. In one feed, a human child who couldn't have been more than 10 years old was teaching a creature the size of a hover tank to fetch objects by scent alone. "How long?" Velk asked, his voice barely audible. "How long have you been preparing?" "Oh, we haven't been preparing," Maya replied cheerfully. "This is just how we live. Humans have been working with animals for over 30,000 years. It's not military training, Commander. It's Tuesday afternoon in the park." The truth hit Velk like a collapsing star. Humans weren't a primitive species struggling to survive. They were apex trainers who had turned their entire planet into a military academy where the instructors were deadly predators and the students were eager to learn. "Sir," Rex whispered urgently, "we're receiving surrender requests from 17 different alien fleets currently in nearby systems. They're all requesting immediate evacuation routes away from Earth space." "Surrender requests? From whom?" "Everyone, sir. The Bruthan Empire, the Crystalloid Federation, even the Hive Collective. They're all asking for safe passage away from human territory." Maya overheard the conversation and nodded approvingly. "Smart beings. Rex here has been getting reports from his cousins throughout the galaxy. Apparently, word travels fast when you're dealing with creatures that can track scents across light years." "That's impossible," Velk protested weakly. "Is it? Tell me, Commander, what do you think happens when you combine human ingenuity with animal instincts? When you take creatures that evolved to hunt, track and survive, then give them access to technology and training programs developed by the same species that turned wolves into loyal companions." Rex stood up and walked closer to the camera. His eyes, Velk noticed, held an intelligence that went far beyond simple animal cunning. This was a creature that understood tactics, strategy, and most terrifyingly of all, seemed to be enjoying the conversation. "Rex wants to know if you'd like to see his spacesuit," Maya said conversationally. "His what?" "Spacesuit. We've been working with some local engineers to develop environmental gear for our four-legged friends. Turns out most alien life support systems aren't designed to handle visitors with enhanced olfactory capabilities and a tendency to chew on anything that looks interesting." The implications were staggering. Humans had developed space-capable combat gear for trained animals. Velk's mind raced through the tactical possibilities, each one more terrifying than the last. "Commander," Lieutenant Creeks called out, her voice high with panic, "we're receiving a priority message from Central Command. They're ordering all ships to withdraw from this sector immediately." "Why?" "Sir, they're reporting that Admiral Croxey's flagship just sent a distress signal. They encountered what they described as a small human child with a very large cat. The flagship is requesting medical assistance and psychological counseling for the entire crew." Maya's laughter filled the bridge. "Oh, that must be little Tommy and his friend Whiskers. Whiskers is a Siberian tiger, about 600 pounds of pure muscle and attitude. Tommy's been teaching him to play hide and seek in starship corridors." "A tiger," Velk repeated numbly. Magnificent creatures, tigers. Did you know they can leap horizontally for over 30 feet? In zero gravity, that range extends considerably. Whiskers has been practicing boarding techniques on derelict ships in our outer system. He's gotten quite good at it. The communication screen flickered, showing a new feed. This one displayed a massive feline creature wearing what appeared to be a custom-designed spacesuit, leaping between asteroids with grace that defied physics. Each leap covered impossible distances, and the creature moved through the vacuum of space like it was its natural habitat. "Beautiful, isn't he?" Maya said proudly. Tommy trained him from a cub. These days, Whiskers can disable a starship's propulsion system in under 3 minutes. He's very thorough. "Sir," Rex whispered, "I'm reading massive energy signatures approaching from the outer system. Multiple contacts, moving at velocities that should be impossible for organic creatures." "Those would be the dolphins," Maya explained helpfully. "They've been practicing high-speed interception techniques. Wonderful creatures, dolphins, extremely intelligent, excellent problem solvers, and they absolutely love disabling enemy communications arrays." Velk watched in stunned silence as his tactical display filled with dozens of contacts, all moving at speeds that defied conventional physics. Each signature was small, organic, and approaching his fleet with purpose that spoke of intelligence and training. "Commander Velk," Maya said, her voice taking on a formal tone, "on behalf of Earth and all our friends here, I'm officially notifying you that this system is now under protective supervision. Any vessels entering human space will be met by our diplomatic corps." "Diplomatic corps?" Rex and his friends. "They're very good at opening communications with visitors. Sometimes they even let the visitors keep their ships afterward." Rex barked once, a sound that somehow conveyed both friendliness and absolute menace. "We should go," Velk said quietly to his crew. "Probably a good idea," Maya agreed. "But before you leave, Rex has a small gift for you." The creature trotted off screen and returned carrying something in its mouth. Even through the communication link, Velk could see it was a piece of advanced alien technology. Specifically, it was a section of hull plating from a Galactic Enforcement Division patrol ship. His patrol ship. "How?" Velk breathed. "Rex likes to collect souvenirs," Maya explained. "He's very gentle about it. Usually the crews don't even notice until they're already on their way home." Velk quickly ran a diagnostic on his ship's hull integrity. Sure enough, there was a small section missing from the outer hull, removed with surgical precision while they'd been in orbit. "This is impossible," he whispered. "No, Commander," Maya said, her smile never wavering. "This is just Tuesday afternoon on Earth. Tomorrow we're planning to teach the bears how to operate in asteroid fields." The communication ended, leaving Velk's bridge in stunned silence. "Sir," Lieutenant Creek said quietly, "orders." Velk looked out the viewport one last time at the deceptively peaceful planet below. Somewhere down there, a young human girl was scratching behind the ears of a creature that had just demonstrated the ability to remove hull plating from an active starship without being detected. "Set course for home," he ordered. "Maximum speed. And our report to Central Command." Velk considered this for a long moment. How did one explain that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't technology or firepower, but the ability to turn any creature into a willing partner in their defense? "Tell them Earth is off limits," he said finally. "Not because they asked us to leave, but because we're not equipped to handle a species that teaches tigers to play fetch with starships." As his fleet jumped to hyperspace, the last thing Velk saw was a golden blur racing across the planet's surface, chasing what appeared to be a falling star. Rex was playing fetch with their discarded waste heat, and he looked like he was having the time of his life.